Welcome to Shri Shri Pad Baba VMST lecture series on organization format features of Srimad Bhagwad Geeta. In the first session, we had been initiating ourselves to the organization of a study zone, and this study zone as such is a twofold approach along Sthapatya miring rod to orb of the sun to center of six space, center of hypercube 6, the origin of six space. This study zone at the next step was taken up for a flow from the orb of the sun. Flow from the orb of sun is a flow from the seventh space as origin of sixth space. Origin of sixth space is a seat of seventh space. It is the pole star in the role of an origin of sun, our solar universe. The pole star is a seventh space, and as such, from orb of the sun at a seat of the origin, at the seat of the pole star, there is a flow of 7 streams. This 7 streams of flow, as it is, when is taken up, it fulfills the northern hemisphere as well as the southern hemisphere. The northern hemisphere is a transcendental boundary, 5 space, enveloped within a creative boundary of 10 components, making it a 50 coordinates fixation of the boundary, and the fulfillment of these creative boundary fixation 50 coordinates of value 350. And this way there happens to be a organization feature of the text of Srimad Bhagwad Gita as of 2 distinct parts. First part of Shloka's values 350, and second of again value of 350. From the center, which is a seat of a 6 space of hypercube 6, it is of a value 4, 5, 6, 7 as a fourfold manifestation layer of hypercube 6, making it a value 22, and as such this organization acquires another feature, that the first part, which is of flow of 350 units, second part, which is also a flow of 350 units, at the center is a seat of hypercube 6 as a fourfold manifestation layer 4, 5, 6, 7 of value 22. As such, the first part of 1 to 9 chapters takes to 372, and the second part of chapter 10 to chapter 18 remains of 328 shlokas range. These organization features were further taken to be of the conceptual reach of 5 steps, and the first step had been that we have to comprehend the organization format of a Sthapatya miring rod as a synthetic setup of hypercubes 1 to 6, and each hypercube itself is a fourfold manifestation layer, and one space as such is a fourfold manifestation layer of summation value 2. Hypercube 2 is a fourfold manifestation layer of summation value 6. Like that, the third hypercube 3 of value 10, then value 14, value 18, and ultimately hypercube 6 is of value 22. This feature is the feature of a Sthapatya miring rod, and there are other connected chain of features of Sthapatya miring rod with which we were exposed in the previous session, and it is the first comprehension which every sadhaka shall be face to face with it, and we shall imbibe it. The second comprehension is in the form of a Jyoti manifestation in a Vishnu lok, in a sixth space, where fourth space plays the role of a boundary, a creative dimensional order, and this creative dimensional order as a swastik, as a dimensional frame of quadruple spatial dimensions, provides a churning. It is this churning at the origin, at the center, at the orb of the sun, which is making a Vishnu lok as a golok. Now there happens to be a golok, means the Jyoti reservoir at the center of the sun, orb of the sun, center of hypercube 6. Now this feature of a golok, which is a reservoir of the Jyoti values at the center of 6 space, at center of hypercube 6, as orb of the sun, as golok of the Vishnu lok. From here there happens to be a Divya Ganga Pravaha along the soul syllable of Bindu Sarovar, Ardhamatra, Tripundram and Swastik Pada. This flow is ultimately reaching a Sanatana base, the transcendental base. It is this transcendental base which is fulfilled. From Golok there happens to be a flow, a Jyoti flow, as a Divya Ganga flow along the soul syllable Om, and it ultimately fulfills the Sanatana base, the eternity base, the transcendental base, and it is this transcendental base which gets fulfilled. This churning as Golok churning, at the orb of the sun, at the seat of a pole star, there happens to be a churning, and this churning as a Divya Ganga flow takes us and fulfills the Sanatana base. It is this comprehension, it is the second set of the comprehension format, features and values. Sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel to the Vedic systems have to comprehend, first of all, format, features and values of Sthapatya miring rod. At a second step, one is to be face to face with, one is to comprehend, one is to imbibe the bliss of a churning at Golok of the Vishnu lok, at orb of the sun, at center of 6 space, at origin of 6 space, at center of hypercube 7, and this churning as it is having a flow as a Divya Ganga Pravaha, as a Divya Ganga flow, and this Pravaha is along the soul syllable Om of Bindu Sarovar, Ardhamatra, Tripundram and Swastik Pada. This Divya Ganga Pravaha of a Jyoti from orb of the sun ultimately fulfills the Sanatana base, makes the eternal base, makes the fifth fold of the manifested creations. So Hyper Sthapatya miring rod is a synthetic setup of fourfold manifestation layers of 1 to 6 space bodies. This is a manifested form. From this manifested creation format of fourfold manifestation layers, which are manifesting and synthesizing as Sthapatya miring rod, we reach at the Golok, the orb of the sun, at a seat of a pole star, at the center of 6 space, at origin of the 6 space, from where, because of the Swastik Pada, because of this churning, there happens to be a Divya Ganga flow, and this Divya Ganga flow from Bindu Sarovar to Ardhamatra to Tripundram to Swastik Pada ultimately establishes and takes us to the transcendental base. We know that the manifestations are of fourfold manifestation layers, n plus 1, n plus 2, n plus 3. However, a step ahead, there happens to be a churning, there happens to be a transcendental flow, Jyoti manifestation at orb of the sun, which takes us to the fifth fold. It is this feature which is to be a reach for the comprehension. So the first comprehension stage is the stage of comprehension of the formate, features and values of a Sthapatya miring rod. The second phase of comprehension is of the Jyoti flow from orb of the sun and constituting and making it a transcendental base. Therefore, from fourfold manifestation layers of the creators of space, of a four space, we reach at five folds setup of reach in the transcendental space, five space. The third comprehension phase and stage is the stage of the split of the domain. It is a format of a domain split spectrum. Domain split spectrum is the third phase and stage of learning of the format, features and values of the Vedic systems. First is of a Sthapatya miring rod, second is of a Jyoti flow, Divya Ganga Pravaha, and the third is of domain split spectrum. We had seen that this spectrum is taking us to single entity, to pair of entities, to fivefold, to 12-fold, 29, 70, and this is the split phenomenon. The format features of this domain split spectrum will help us to be parallel to the way the transcendence from the manifested creations ultimately makes a Sanatana base and transcendental base. At the transcendental base, then there happens to be a domain split spectrum. It is this domain split spectrum with whose chase we will be face to face as to how, when from the manifested creations there happens to be a transcendence, the same manifests itself, makes it a self-referral domain. So when we are from the manifested creations of four space, we are transcending and reaching at the transcendental base of a five space, then the transcendence from four space upon a Sthapatya miring rod will be taking us to Divya Ganga Pravaha. This Pravaha is fulfilling a Sanatana base. So from four space we are reaching at five space. From five space we will be reaching at six space. However, here there is going to be a split. This split is going to be because of the creative dimensional order of the transcendental domain. Now, here it is that we have to have a pause and see that a three-dimensional frame splits into a pair of dimensional frames. Three-dimensional frame splits into a pair of three-dimensional frames of half dimensions. It is this entity of a three-dimensional frame which is splitting into a pair of three-dimensional frames of half dimensions. It is this split phenomenon which is the third phase and stage of learning of chase of the Vedic systems. Vedic systems learning is to be sequentially and gently reached at the first step as a Sthapatya miring rod. It is a synthetic setup of hypercubes 1 to 6, and these are of fourfold manifestation layers, so it is a creator's space phenomenon. So at the first stage we are learning the creative space which gives fourfold manifestation layers, and four space plays the role of dimension of a six space. Therefore there is a manifestation of a Sthapatya miring rod. At the next step there has to be a transcendence. It is going to be a churning at the orb of the sun, at the seat of a pole star. There churning, there happens to be Divya Ganga Pravaha, and this Divya Ganga Pravaha as such fulfills the transcendental base. Therefore along the soul syllable Om, we are having a transcendence from the manifested creations. It is happening because of the churning. Now, because of this fourfold churning, we are reaching at a Sanatana base. The third phase and stage is that when we have reached the Sanatana base, then it is of a solid order. This solid order splits into a pair of solid orders but of half dimensions. It is this stage. Therefore, the first stage is of a Sthapatya miring rod. Second stage is of a Jyoti flow, a transcendence happening, and third stage is of a split of the dimensional frames. It is because of the split of the dimensional frames there happens to be a split for the domains. Therefore, domain split spectrum. The next stage, the fourth stage, is that we are already having a split of the domains which parallel to which there happens to be a split for the dimensional frames. Now these dimensional frames then get synthesized. Therefore, the first stage is the stage of synthesis of dimensions of the same order. It is this feature which becomes the most crucial feature, as now the split domains are again getting synthesized in terms of the dimensional frames. This synthesis will be taking the single dimension, linear dimension gives value 1, then the pair of linear dimensions give us value 3, and the triple dimensions give us value 6, and so on. When there is a spatial dimensions, so when the linear dimension synthesis rule is going to be, and then this simultaneously parallel to it, there is going to be spatial dimensions synthesis values, and the difference value of the two as such becomes the difference values for the subsequent synthesis reach. This difference of first and second is going to be the difference for the second and third, and like that it happens. We will be learning more about it. It is the most crucial step. It is the concept of a universal existence of our universe which splits and unites. So split and synthesis are the phenomenon which are parallelly taking us to the renewal, rejuvenation of our solar universe, creating itself again and again, reinventing again and again. The fifth phase and stage of comprehension of the Vedic systems is of a transcendence of the origin and duplication of the domain. Now, sixth space is having seventh space as an origin. Once origin transcends out, then there happens to be a split for a sixth space domain. So the sixth space domain duplicates itself. It is this duplication of sixth space which is a crucial aspect. And we know sixth space domain is of creative order. Sixth space is going to be of a creative order. This pair of dimensions will synthesize as value 8. See, the synthesis of values gives value 8, and split of this value gives us 4 and 4, and the seventh space origin itself becomes a synthetic setup of 5 and 5. From here, one had a split, and when we are having a transcendence at the origin, then the origin of origin, because there are compactified origins, so at the next stage, the seventh space itself splits into a pair of domains, seventh space, with the origin 8 transcending out. It is of a transcendental order, it is also of a transcendental order, and it is a synthetic setup of the values 6 and 6. So these features, as these are, will further help us appreciate that this value, synthesis value, is taking us to here, and this synthesis value is taking us this. It is this coordination, it is this fixation, it is twofold orientation, and it is this happening which is interconnecting the domain with the origin. Therefore, the sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel to the Vedic systems have to sequentially, in 5 steps, have to comprehend, have to be parallel to the organization, format, features of the Vedic systems, which take us at first step as a Sthapatya miring rod. Then it is going to be Jyoti manifestation, domain split, synthesis of dimensions, and transcendence of the origin. Today we will be picking up the thread for the further concepts, the 5 comprehension phases as have been exposed in the previous session are being in continuity taken up for the further comprehension. So the 6th concept, 6th format is the format of the cosmic windows. See that 3 space hypercube 3 is having a raised to power 3 is to 6 b raised to power 2. The 3 space is enveloped within 6 spatial dimensions. 6 surface plates are enveloping a 3 space domain. Now when one of the windows, one of the surface plate is stripped off, there happens to be a setup that we are having a 3 space domain. It is having a spatial envelopment of 6 surface plates. When out of the 6 surface plates we strip off one of it, means we make a window here. Now this window in the cosmos will be permitting inflow from the outer space. This plate is stripped off. This is a spatial order setup, and we know the 2 space is a dimensional order of a 4 space. Now the space outside 3 space is a 4 space. Now when there is a window, one dimension is created, one surface plate is removed, then there would be inflow, and this inflow naturally is going to be from a 4 space. Therefore from this cosmic window there is happening a 4 space content entering 3 space, and we know that the origin, the center of a cube, is a seat of a 4 space. The cosmos, from these windows, so these are designated as cosmic windows. These cosmic windows permit inflow of the 4 space content within 3 space. This inflow of 4 space content within 3 space domain gets centers and fulfills the seat at the origin of 3 space. It is a 4 space. It is called a Pushpika. We will be ultimately coming to this format of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, that when the 3 space is having a inflow of the cosmos at the center, now it is this value which ultimately will become Pushpika. It is going to be fulfilled. We know 3 space is as dimensional order will be creating 5 space. It is going to be a 4-fold manifestation layer of total value 18. As such, this flow from the cosmos within 3 space, our Triloki, our Vishwa, our 3 space world, our physical world, it will be fulfilling at the center. So center of our universe, our Vishwa, is going to be fulfilled as a creator's space, which is having a transcendental origin, means a 3 space will be playing the role of a dimension of a 5 space, playing the role of the origin of a 4 space. It is this way that we will be reaching at the organization format of the individual chapters, but we will be coming to it afterwards. Here only our focus today is at the 6th concept, and this concept is of the cosmic windows. So from 3 space, when the one boundary component is stripped off, outer space becomes a 4 space, and from this window there is a flow of a 4 space content. A step ahead, hypercube 4, it is having a solid boundary. When one of the boundary component, a solid boundary component, a cube, is stripped off, then it will be creating 5 space. And therefore from this cosmic window, of 4 space, there will be inflow of a 5 space content. Now this 5 space content will be flowing within 4 space domain through the cosmic window, and this inflow will be fulfilling the seat at the center of a 4 space, which is a transcendental seat, which is a seat of a 5 space, playing the role of an origin of a 4 space. Step ahead, the 5 space itself is having a creative boundary, so 4 space is a component of the creative boundary. 4 space will be creating 6 space. As such, from the cosmic window of a 5 space, there will be inflow of a 6 space content, and this 6 space content will fulfill the origin seat at the origin. This reservoir of the origin seat of the transcendental domain will get fulfilled with self-referral content, and ultimately, when there is going to be a cosmic window for 6 space where 5 space is playing the role of a boundary, it will be creating a 7 space, and as such there will happen a seat of a 7 space at the origin seat of a 6 space. It is a pole star, it is a Vishnu Lok. So it is this Vishnu Lok, it is this Golok from where there is ultimately going to be a Jyoti flow, and this Jyoti flow is going to be along the artifices, components of the soul cerebral Om, and this flow is going to be as a Divya Ganga Pravaha. From this cosmic windows concept, we will be reaching at the concept of a compactified origins range. We know one space is having 2 space in the role of a origin, 2 space is having 3 space in the role of a origin, 3 space is having 4 space as an origin, 4 is having 5 space as an origin, 5 space is having 6 space as an origin, and 6 space is having 7 space as an origin. It is this sequential compactification. Therefore, it is going to be an inward expansion. The cosmic windows are leading us to an outward expansion with the strip off of the boundary components. However, then there is happening an inward expansion, and this inward expansion is along the format of the line of compactification of the origins. Now, this concept is the concept which is a complementary and supplementary concept of the cosmic windows. So the phenomenon of cosmic windows and phenomenon of the compactified origins are complementary and supplementary to each other. The cosmic windows help us appreciate and to be parallel with the outward expansion, and compactified origins is a concept which takes us to inward expansion. This outward expansion and inward expansion is happening simultaneously. It is this feature, it is this value which deserves to be comprehended well. Sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge shall be face to face with the simultaneous outward and inward expansion as cosmic windows and as compactified origins. The next phase and stage of learning, comprehension, imbibing the values, features and formats of the Vedic systems is of a transcendence and superimposition of the order of origin upon the order of the domain. We know that the origin of one space is 2 space, which is of a zero-dimensional order. Therefore, when there is going to be superimposition, then we know one space itself is of a -1 order. The origin is 2 space, which is of a 0 order. Therefore, when there happens a transcendence at the origin of one space, that means the 0 space will be transcending out and will get superimposed upon one space. A step ahead, when 2 spaces having 3 space as a origin, 1 space is having 3 spaces having 1 space as dimension, 2 spaces having 0 space. Therefore, there would going to be superimposition of linear order upon 0 order. Step ahead, 3 space is having 4 space as the origin, and the 4 space is having a 2 space as dimension. Therefore, the 2 space order will transcend and will get superimposed upon 1 space. It is this phenomenon of superimposition of the higher order upon the lower order which is happening within the domain. We have seen that the cosmic windows are giving us an outward expansion. The compactified origins are giving us inward expansion. However, the domain itself remains in a state that with the happening of a transcendence. So it is going to be an inward transcendence. When there is going to be an upward transcendence from the origin, then it would amount to the superimposition of the higher order upon the lower order. Therefore, 5 space as origin of 4 space with 3 space and order will, with the transcendence upward, will be having superimposition of 3 space or third order upon the spatial order. Sequentially, 4 space order upon 3 space and 5 space order upon the 4 space is going to be the happening within the domain. So happening at the boundary is the happening which will provide us through cosmic windows an outward expansion and inflow of the cosmic substance within the domain. The compactified origins will provide us the inward transcendence. When there is an inward transcendence, and from inward transcendence there is going to be an upward transcendence, then as a result thereof, there is going to be a superimposition of a higher order upon the lower order. Sadhakas shall sit comfortably, permit the transcending mind to be sequentially parallel to these organization format features of the Vedic systems, which take us to cosmic windows, compactified origins, and transcendence and superimposition of the order of the origin upon the order of the domain. Now, from here, we reach a next step, a very crucial step, a step where we are going to have a transcendence through the dimensions. We know that say 1 space is having -1 space as dimension and 1 space is having a -3 space as dimension. So 7 space is having, 9 space is having 7 space as dimension and 7 space is having 5 space as a dimension. Therefore, when we are at 1 space, then in fact, when we will transcending along 1 space in the role of a dimension, we will be reaching at its -1 space, and from here we will reaching at -3 space, and the product value of these 3 phases transcendence will give us value 3. However, when we are at 2 space, then the transcendence will be to a Euro space, and from Euro space we will reaching -2 space and product value is 0. Like that, sequentially at 3 space we will reach at 1 space, then to -1 space value is going to be -3 space. See, at 1 space we are reaching at value 3, but at 3 space we are reaching at value -3. It is this interconnection, coordination, and sequentially, so values 0, 15, 48, 105, 384, and 945. This concept of transcendence through dimensions is now that firstly we had reached at cosmic windows by stripping off the outer boundary component. Then at the origin we had a compactified origins range going inward. Thereafter we had a transcendence from the origin and we had a superimposition of a higher order upon a lower order of a domain. Now at the next step we are reaching a dimensional frame within the domain. Originally we were at the windows, means at the boundary, then we reached at origin. From here we reached at within the domain, and now within the domain we are going to have a dimensional frames. Now these dimensional frames are the dimensions. Now 1 space is playing the role of a dimension here. Now if we want to have a transcendence within a 3 space, that means within a cube, then we have to transcend within this domain along the dimensional frame, that is along 1 space. So from 3 space we'll reaching to 1 space, and this further will take us to -1 space. It is this phenomenon of transcendence through dimensions is the crucial aspect which is ultimately being availed and worked out. And it is being worked out as taking these 9 vowels as the spaces, 1 space to 9 space, in the role of a domains. These domains, so when there is going to be a transcendence within this 1 space domain, as geometric format of the first vowel, it will be sequentially taking us to values which ultimately will become a trans value. So the trans value through the vowels, dimensional frames, is taking us sequentially from first vowel to the 9th vowel as of values 3, 0, -3, 0, 15, 48, 105, 384, 945, which are the values of the transcendence through dimensions. Therefore, when at the boundary we reached at cosmic windows, at the origin we reached at the compactified origins range, then at the transcendence and superimposition we reached at the domain, and it is here where we are reaching at dimensions. So here we are reaching at dimensions, here we are reaching at domain, here we are reaching at origin, and here we are reaching at the boundary. So see the manifestation. The Stapate measuring rod is a synthetic setup of hypercubes as fourfold manifestation layer setups of the representative regular bodies of 1 space to 4 space. So each hypercube is of fourfold setup, fourfold manifestation is there. From this fourfold manifestation layer, sequentially we are having firstly at the boundary fold, then we are having at the origin, then we reach at domain, and then we reach at dimensions. Once these features of the manifested creations are available with us and we want to transcend from this particular manifested format, then the Vedic systems ultimately are being worked out as a speaking language mathematics. So these features, these four features and previous 5-fold features, so these are the 9 sequential steps of the chase of the organization format features of the manifested creations for to be transcended therefrom as the essential features of the Vedic systems. In this light of these 9-fold features of the Vedic systems, then the Vedic systems are ready for having a transformation for the mathematics as a speaking language. And the first step of this transformation is that this transcendence through dimensions is being availed as 9 vowels. So transcendence through the dimensions, 1 space to 9 space in the role of dimensions, takes us to transforms as the phenomenon of the organization format features of the vowels. So once we have reached at vowels, then at the next step we reach at the TCV values. These TCV values are the values which are associated with the 42 letters of the Devanagari alphabet, and it is this association, this acceptance of the values by the individual letters of Devanagari alphabet which will ultimately help us appreciate that the vowels as well as the consonants, including Varga consonant and Sthastha letters and Ushmana letters, all the 42 letters as such get associated values which are called the transcendental code values. These values take us to the 14 Maheshwara Sutras which coordinate 42, and 14 we know is equal to 2, 3, 4 and 5. It takes us to creators of space, and 42 we know is the synthesis value of the transcendence ranges of a pair of linear order. Therefore, It is this reach from a creator space to the transcendental domain. These features, the transcendental code values, it is going to be the second phase and stage of having transformation for proper foundation for making mathematics as a speaking language. And it is this speaking language reach in these two steps which will be crucial for the sadhakas. So sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge to be parallel to the organization format features of the Vedic systems, which are of nine folds, and same being availed for transforming the mathematics as a speaking language. Therefore, sadhakas shall sit comfortably, permit the transcending mind to be parallel to the ninefold sequential phased manner of the reach at the comprehension formats of 9 steps. With this comprehension of 9 steps, we will be reaching at the pair of steps for the transition and transformation for the Vedic systems to be a mathematics as a speaking language. Once we have reached at this transformation, once we are in a position to have a transformation for the mathematical values to be chased and worked out as a speaking language, then we will feel that we are in a position to enter the Vedic literature, Vedic systems, taking us to mathematics as a speaking language, successful to unify the whole of language, whole of the knowledge as a speaking language through a single alphabet. So single Devanagari alphabet, articulated alphabet, is the end reach value in terms of which the Vedic systems have successfully chased the whole range of knowledge as a mathematical domain, workable as a speaking language. Thank you very much.